The first time Erin Walsh told me I was wrong in front of 12 executives, I decided I hated her. The problem was, while she dismantled 3 months of my work, I noticed the exact color of her eyes. Gray. Not soft gray. Storm over Puget Sound gray. That irritated me almost as much as the fact that she was right. The campaign assumes our customers want more features, she said, tapping the screen behind her. The research says they want fewer decisions. I folded my hands on the conference table. Our research says convenience drives retention. Erin turned toward me. She was 45, 6 years younger than I was, wearing a charcoal blazer over a white shirt, her dark blonde hair tucked behind one ear. She had joined the company 17 days earlier, which apparently was enough time to become comfortable challenging a vice president before breakfast. Convenience does, she said. Complexity does not. Someone at the far end of the table shifted in his chair. Nobody volunteered to enter the blast zone. I should mention that I had been back at work for exactly 2 weeks after my divorce became final. 26 years of marriage had ended with 2 signatures, one uncomfortable conversation about the house, and my former husband saying, "Maybe we stopped seeing each other a long time ago." I hated that sentence because it was true. So I returned to work determined to be exceptionally competent. Competence had always been the room where I knew where the furniture was. Then Erin Walsh walked into it and started moving chairs. "Do you have data supporting that conclusion?" I asked. "Yes. Of course she did." She slid a report toward me. Our fingers did not touch. I noticed that too, which was ridiculous. I read the first page, then the second. The numbers were clean. The customer interviews were worse. She had found a weakness I should have caught. "This changes the messaging," I said. "It improves the messaging," Erin replied. I looked up. There was no triumph on her face. That somehow made her more annoying. Our chief executive, Daniel Mercer, leaned back and smiled the way executives smile when somebody else has just created useful conflict. "Good. Then you two can solve it together." Erin and I spoke at the same time. "Excuse me." Daniel ignored us. The launch was 12 weeks away. Brand strategy and product marketing had spent the previous month blaming each other for delays. Starting Monday, Erin and I would jointly lead the campaign. Shared meetings. Shared decisions. Shared accountability. I stared at the calendar appearing on the conference screen and felt my morning deteriorate in real time. When the meeting ended, Erin gathered her notebook and laptop. "For what it is worth," she said quietly, "I was not trying to embarrass you. You have an interesting method of showing that." One corner of her mouth lifted. "You always this friendly before 9? Only with new colleagues who rewrite my strategy. Good to know." She walked toward the door, then glanced back. "See you Monday, Brooks." I watched her leave. 3 seconds too long. Maybe 4. Then I looked down at the report she had given me and found one handwritten note beside a customer quote. She had written, "Natalie's original insight is right. We are asking the wrong question." I read it twice. She had challenged my strategy without dismissing my thinking. That should have made me respect her. Instead, inexplicably, it made everything worse. Because irritation was easy, respect was dangerous. And whatever made me notice the way Erin Walsh smiled when she knew she had surprised me was something I was not ready to name. By Monday morning, Erin Walsh had colonized conference room 6 with 3 laptops, 2 legal pads, and enough sticky notes to wallpaper my kitchen. "You are early," I said. She glanced at the clock. "It is 8:12. "Exactly. Do you usually compete with the building?" I set my coffee beside my laptop. "The building has never challenged my strategy in front of 12 executives." Erin smiled without looking up. There she is. I should have ignored that. Instead, I spent the next 4 hours discovering that working with Erin was worse than arguing with her. She questioned everything. Headlines, customer segments, even the order of slides. But she never challenged something without offering a better alternative, which deprived me of the satisfaction of dismissing her. By noon, our whiteboard looked like evidence from a complicated investigation. My stomach reminded me that coffee was not lunch. I ignored it. At 12:30, Erin pushed a paper bag across the table. "Turkey sandwich." I stared at it. "Why?" "Because you have been reading the same sentence for 3 minutes." "I am thinking. You are hungry." You have known me 18 days. 19. I looked at her. That correction did not help your case. Eat Brooks. I should have been annoyed by the nickname. I was. Mostly. The sandwich was turkey, avocado, and mustard. No onions. Exactly what I would have ordered downstairs. How did you know? You complained about onions during Friday's catered lunch. I did not complain. Erin raised one eyebrow. You delivered a 4-minute critique. That was constructive feedback. Her laugh surprised me. It was low and warm and completely different from the controlled voice she used in meetings. For one strange second, I forgot what I was going to say. I looked down at the sandwich instead. By Wednesday, our calendars had become nearly identical. Customer interviews before 9. Budget review at 11. Creative session after lunch. Then Daniel added a 3-day trip to San Francisco for research and partner meetings. Erin read the email beside me. You look delighted. I enjoy travel. Your face disagrees. My face has excellent judgment. She turned toward me, close enough that I caught the faint scent of coffee and something clean, like cedar after rain. I stepped toward the screen before my mind could examine why I had noticed. We have 12 weeks, I said. 11 and a half, Erin corrected. You are exhausting. And yet you keep scheduling meetings with me. Daniel keeps scheduling meetings with you. Whatever helps you sleep. That evening, we were the last people in conference room 6. Seattle rain blurred the windows into silver. Erin stood at the whiteboard, twisting a simple silver ring around her thumb while studying our campaign line. I had seen her do it 3 times that day, always when she was irritated. You hate it, I said. What? The tagline. She looked at me. How did you know? I nodded toward her hand. Erin stopped turning the ring. Something shifted in her expression. You notice a lot, Brooks. Heat touched my face. It is my job. Is it? The room became unusually quiet. I reached for my coffee. Erin glanced at the cup and smiled. Cream. What about it? You drink it black unless you are stressed. My hand froze halfway to my mouth. You have known me 19 days. 20 now. Our eyes met across the table. Neither of us smiled. Then Erin looked back at the whiteboard and said softly, apparently I noticed things too. By Thursday I had learned 3 things about Erin Walsh. She hated weak coffee, she could detect a vague marketing claim from 20 feet away, and when she was trying very hard not to argue with me, that silver ring started moving around her thumb. I had also learned something about myself that I preferred not to examine. I knew where she was in a room without looking. That morning, 8 of us crowded into conference room 6 to settle the campaign tagline before San Francisco. 20 minutes later, everyone had an opinion and nobody had a solution. We are trying too hard to sound impressive, Erin said. Customers do not need impressive. They need clear. Clear can become forgettable, I replied. The ring moved around her thumb. And clever can become meaningless. Did you practice that before coming in? No, Brooks. Some of us improvise. 2 people suddenly became fascinated by their laptops. I stood and walked to the whiteboard. Fine. Forget the tagline. What does the customer need to feel? Erin came beside me. Relief. Confidence. Same neighborhood. Different houses. She gave me a sideways look. That was almost poetic. Please do not tell anyone. For the next 15 minutes, we stopped defending our departments and started finishing each other's ideas. I wrote. Erin erased. She added 3 words. I removed 2. Then, almost accidentally, the sentence appeared. Simple. Human. Obvious in the way good ideas become obvious only after everyone has suffered for them. The room went quiet. Daniel read it twice. That is it. People began gathering their laptops, visibly relieved. Erin stayed beside the whiteboard. I looked at her. She looked at me. And then we both laughed. Not politely. Not professionally. The kind of laugh that comes after 2 stubborn people discover they were fighting their way toward the same answer. Erin's whole face changed when she laughed. Softer. Younger somehow. I looked away first. That afternoon, she left a black coffee on my desk before a budget meeting. No cream. Should I be concerned? I asked. You seem unusually calm. Maybe I am adapting. To me. Do not ruin it. She walked away smiling. I watched her until she disappeared around the corner, then stared at the coffee as though it had personally betrayed me. Friday brought our San Francisco itinerary. 2 flights, 3 client meetings, customer interviews, 1 partner dinner, and enough scheduled time together to qualify as a minor psychological experiment. At 5:30, I found Erin alone in conference room 6 reviewing interview questions. Still here? She asked. You are still here? I asked first. I sat across from her. I used to hate going home late. The words escaped before I could stop them. Erin did not ask about my divorce. She simply waited. I looked toward the rain-darkened windows. Now I hate going home early. Her expression softened, but there was no pity in it. Quiet can be loud when you did not choose it. I looked at her. Something in my chest tightened. How do you know that? Erin glanced down at her silver ring, turning it once. Experience. For once I did not push. She closed her laptop. Come on. You need dinner. Is feeding me part of product marketing now? Only until brand strategy learns basic survival skills. I smiled despite myself. As we walked toward the elevators, our shoulders nearly brushed. Neither of us moved farther apart. The elevator doors opened, and I caught our reflection in the polished metal. 2 women standing closer than co-workers needed to. I told myself I was noticing because I noticed everything. By then, even I was beginning to suspect that was not true. San Francisco was supposed to give us customer insight. Instead, somewhere between a delayed flight and midnight coffee, Erin gave me a question I could not put back in its box. The trip began normally enough. We flew out of Seattle Tuesday morning, spent the afternoon interviewing customers, and argued through dinner about whether one participant represented an emerging trend or simply had strong opinions. You only disagree because she supported my hypothesis, Erin said as we walked back toward the hotel. I disagree because 6 people are not a national sample. There is the woman I know. You have known me 24 days. Erin smiled. Long enough. The next evening, heavy weather delayed our final partner meeting and pushed our return flight to the following morning. We already had separate rooms, but the proposal still needed revisions, so we claimed a quiet corner of the hotel lounge. By 11, Erin had abandoned her blazer and rolled her sleeves to her elbows. I had removed my shoes beneath the table, something I would have considered professionally unacceptable around her 2 weeks earlier. Your slide is too crowded, she said. Your personality is too confident. That is not a design note. Neither was yours. Her phone lit up. Erin glanced at it and immediately softened. Give me 5 minutes. She answered a video call and moved toward the window. I tried to focus on the presentation. I failed. Erin was talking to a little girl who appeared to be missing a front tooth. She asked about a spelling test, praised a drawing, then promised to visit Sunday. When she returned, I nodded toward the phone. Daughter. Niece. Lucy. My sister says I spoil her. Do you? Absolutely. She smiled as she reopened her laptop. I like seeing this version of you. Erin looked at me. What version? The one who is not correcting me. I contain multitudes. I laughed, then the silence changed. It was not awkward. That was the problem. Erin leaned back with her coffee. Can I ask you something? That depends. Were you married long? I looked down at my hands. 26 years. I am sorry. Do not be. We were not terrible to each other. Maybe that made leaving harder. I surprised myself by continuing. There was no dramatic betrayal. We just became efficient. Mortgage, holidays, grocery lists. Somewhere along the way, efficiency became our entire marriage. Erin listened without offering advice. What about you? I asked. She turned her silver ring once. My longest relationship was 9 years. Marriage. Almost. Her gaze moved toward the dark window. Her name was Rachel. We loved each other. We just wanted different futures. The word her landed softly, but everything inside me seemed to hear it. Erin was talking about a woman. Of course she was simply telling me about her life. Nothing had changed. Yet suddenly I became aware of the distance between our chairs, the warmth of the lounge, the quiet steadiness of her voice. Erin looked back at me. You disappeared for a second. I am tired. That must be it. There was no teasing in her expression, which somehow made my pulse more noticeable. We finished the proposal shortly after midnight. At the elevators, Erin pressed the button for her floor. Good night, Brooks. Good night, Walsh. The doors closed between us. In my room I changed clothes, turned off the lamp and stared at the ceiling. I told myself I was thinking about my marriage, about loneliness, about the presentation waiting downstairs. But every explanation eventually circled back to the same inconvenient detail, the way Erin had said her name was Rachel, and the strange, impossible relief I had felt when I understood exactly what that meant. The morning after San Francisco, I told myself the relief I had felt meant nothing. By Monday I had almost succeeded. Erin helped by becoming relentlessly professional. No personal questions. No late-night conversations. No mention of Rachel. We worked, argued, revised, and moved the launch forward. I should have been grateful. Instead, I noticed every inch of distance she put between us. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, I learned something that changed the shape of everything. I was leaving a finance meeting when Daniel caught me outside his office. Natalie, 1 minute. He closed the door behind us. I wanted you to know I pushed back on Harrison last month. About what? Daniel hesitated. He suggested moving you off the launch. I stared at him. Why? He thought the divorce might have affected your focus. For a moment, I heard nothing but the ventilation system. 26 years of marriage had ended, and apparently someone had decided that made my judgment professionally questionable. Who else knew? I asked. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Erin. My stomach tightened. Erin knew. She was in the staffing meeting. She shut the idea down before I could. I looked at him. What did she say? That your personal life was irrelevant and your work was still the strongest in the room. I left his office carrying a feeling I could not organize. Erin had known. She had known before the sandwich, before San Francisco, before I admitted that going home early had become harder than staying late. And she had never once treated me like I needed protecting. I found her in conference room 6 studying launch projections. You knew about Harrison. Her eyes lifted slowly. Daniel told you. Why did you not? Erin closed her laptop. Because it was insulting. That is not an answer. It is exactly the answer. She stood. You were going through a divorce. That did not suddenly make you incapable of doing your job. You barely knew me. I knew your work. You did not even like me. A faint smile appeared. I did not say that. My breath caught embarrassingly fast. Erin seemed to realize what she had said because the smile disappeared. Natalie, I did not defend you as a favor. It was the first time she had used my first name. Somehow that mattered. Then why? Because they were wrong. She stepped closer to the table, not to me. And because I know what it feels like when people decide a woman's private life is evidence about her competence. I looked at her hands. The silver ring was perfectly still. Thank you, I said. Erin nodded. You do not owe me that. I know. That was why I meant it. She reached for her laptop at the same moment I reached for the printed projections. Our fingers brushed. Barely. An ordinary accident between coworkers. Still, neither of us moved immediately. Erin's eyes found mine. The room seemed suddenly too quiet. I pulled my hand back first. We should finish the forecast. Probably. Her voice had softened. We sat across from each other, but the numbers refused to hold my attention. For weeks, I had made Erin into an adversary because that version of her was manageable. An adversary could be defeated, ignored, categorized. But the woman sitting across from me had defended my dignity when there was nothing to gain from it. She had noticed when I was hungry without treating me as helpless. She had listened to me speak about my marriage without trying to explain my own life to me. And now I understood what frightened me. I was not losing control because Erin Walsh challenged me. I was losing control because, somewhere between resentment and respect, I had started wanting her to see me. The first time I missed Erin, she was sitting 12 feet away from me. That was the humiliating part. Nothing dramatic had happened after our fingers touched. No confession. No reckless decision. We finished the forecast, sent it to finance, and went home. But something between us had shifted, and Erin seemed determined to put it back where it belonged. For the next week, she was warm enough to be kind and distant enough to be safe. She called me Natalie in meetings now, never Brooks. I discovered I miss Brooks. On Thursday evening, we finished our final launch rehearsal with the executive team. Daniel closed his laptop and smiled. That is the strongest presentation we have had all quarter. Aaron looked across the table at me. Brand strategy finally became useful. Product marketing finally learned restraint. Daniel shook his head. Whatever this is, keep doing it. By 7:30, everyone had left except us. Seattle glowed beyond the windows, rain turning the city lights into blurred streaks of gold. Aaron stood beside the whiteboard deleting old notes while I closed the presentation. We did good work, I said. We did. You sound surprised. I am trying not to ruin the moment. I laughed. Aaron turned toward me, and for several seconds neither of us said anything. She had taken off her glasses. Without them, her expression seemed strangely unguarded. I became aware of how quiet the room was, how close she stood, how carefully I was breathing. Are you still angry with me? She asked. For what? Existing, mostly. You seemed committed to that position. I smiled despite myself. That is becoming inconveniently complicated. Aaron did not smile back. Her eyes stayed on mine. Natalie. Hearing my name in that voice made something inside me go still. I reached for the marker beside her at exactly the moment she did. Our hands touched again, only this time neither of us could pretend surprise. Her fingers remained against mine for one quiet second, then two. I looked at her mouth. I knew I did because when my eyes returned to hers, Aaron had noticed. She did not move closer. She did not make the decision for me. Tell me what you need, she said softly. I had spent 26 years knowing the answer to practical questions. Mortgage payments, retirement accounts, holiday schedules. I could build a 5-year strategy before breakfast. But standing beside Aaron, I could not answer the simplest question anyone had asked me in years. What did I need? I wanted to close the small distance between us. The realization frightened me more than the wanting itself. I stepped back. Aaron immediately lowered her hand. No disappointment performed for my benefit. No persuasion. I am sorry, I said. Do not apologize. I do not know what I am doing. Then you do not have to do anything. Her gentleness almost undid me. Good night, Natalie. She collected her bag and left. The next morning, Aaron was already in conference room 6 when I arrived. Morning, she said. No teasing. No Brooks. A black coffee waited beside my chair. But she was discussing conversion metrics before I sat down. Everything was perfectly professional. I should have felt relieved. Instead, the distance hurt. By lunch, I understood something I had spent the entire morning trying not to understand. I had thought the dangerous thing was wanting Aaron to come closer. It was not. The dangerous thing was discovering how much I noticed when she stepped away. 3 days before the launch, I learned Aaron and I were competing for the same promotion. Daniel asked me into his office at 8:15 on Monday morning and closed the door. The board is discussing the chief marketing officer role, he said. You are on the short list. 6 months earlier, that sentence would have felt like victory. Instead, my first thought was Aaron. Who else? Daniel hesitated just long enough. Aaron is being considered. I nodded as if the information meant nothing. By 10, I had convinced myself it changed nothing. By noon, I was lying to myself professionally. Aaron remained calm through rehearsals, budget questions, and a last-minute creative revision. She treated me exactly as she had Friday. Respectful. Careful. Distant. At 4:30, she stepped out to take a call and left her laptop open on the conference table. I was gathering printed reports when the screen refreshed. A folder appeared beside the campaign dashboard. Natalie Brooks. Confidential review materials. I stopped breathing for a second. I did not touch the laptop. I did not open anything. I did not need to. Fear supplied the rest. Every private conversation rearranged itself inside my head. The sandwich. San Francisco. Her defense of me. The almost moment beside the whiteboard. Had she been evaluating me while I was trying to understand what I felt for her? Aaron returned carrying 2 coffees. She saw my face before she saw the screen. What happened? How long have you been reviewing me? Her expression changed. What? I nodded toward the laptop. Daniel told me about the Chief Marketing Officer shortlist. Aaron set the coffees down carefully. Natalie, is that why you have a confidential folder with my name on it? You are making an assumption. Then correct it. Not here. That answer landed badly. An hour later, during our leadership review, Aaron questioned one of my forecast assumptions. Under any other circumstances, I would have answered with data. Instead, I heard myself say, I am sure you have already documented your opinion of my performance. Silence spread across the room. Aaron looked at me as though I had closed a door between us. The forecast, she said evenly, is what we are discussing. Shame arrived immediately, but pride kept me seated. After the meeting, Aaron asked me to stay. Everyone left. She opened the folder in front of me. Campaign metrics. Customer retention projections. Every file was material I had asked her to audit the previous Thursday. Daniel asked me 2 weeks ago to participate in a formal assessment of your leadership, she said. I refused. I stared at her. Why? Conflict of interest. Her voice was quiet now. Because we work too closely. Because I respect you. And because my feelings had stopped being entirely professional. The room seemed to tilt without moving. Aaron continued before I could speak. You could have asked me. I know. No. You decided what I was before giving me the chance to answer. I swallowed. Aaron, I am sorry. She looked exhausted rather than angry. That was worse. You made me your enemy again because being afraid was easier than trusting me. I had no defense. She picked up her notebook. The silver ring around her thumb was perfectly still. After launch, I am asking Daniel to move me to another business unit for a while. Because of me? Because I need distance from this. I wanted to tell her not to go. I wanted to explain that 26 years of being useful had taught me to mistake competition for danger and control for safety. But explanations would have asked Aaron to comfort the person who had hurt her. So I let the silence stand. At the door she paused. For what it is worth, Brooks, I never wanted to beat you. Then she left. Hearing the nickname again should have felt familiar. Instead, it sounded like goodbye. The launch succeeded on Thursday morning, and by Friday, Aaron's chair in conference room 6 was empty. Her transfer was temporary, Daniel told me. She would spend several weeks supporting a new business unit on another floor. I nodded like that information belonged in a spreadsheet. Then I walked into our war room and discovered how much space one person could leave behind. Her legal pad was gone. So was the coffee mug with the chipped blue handle. The whiteboard had been cleaned, but I could still see faint traces of her handwriting beneath the fluorescent lights. At 9:15, I opened the campaign dashboard and waited for one of her sarcastic comments to appear beside my revisions. None did. That hurt more than I expected. For 3 days I considered going upstairs. I imagined finding her office, apologizing again, telling her I understood everything now. But I did not understand everything. I only missed her. Missing someone was not the same as changing. So on Tuesday evening I did something I had postponed for years. I sat across from a therapist named Dr. Morgan Hayes, and admitted that I had no idea who I was when nobody needed me to fix something. Saying it aloud made the room feel smaller. We talked about my marriage, my career, the way competence had become more than a strength. It had become armor. I had spent decades believing that if I remained useful enough, prepared enough, indispensable enough, nobody could decide I was unnecessary. Then my marriage ended anyway. Aaron became competition at exactly the moment I was most afraid of being replaceable. That did not excuse what I had done. It explained where I needed to begin. Over the next several weeks, I began making small changes that nobody applauded. I stopped answering emails after 8 unless something was genuinely urgent. I ate lunch away from my desk twice a week. I called my younger sister without pretending everything was fine. One Saturday I drove to Alki Beach alone, bought coffee, and walked beside Puget Sound while cold wind pulled at my coat. I did not solve anything. I simply stayed there. At work, the chief marketing officer process continued. One night, I opened a resignation email from the candidate pool. My finger hovered over send. Part of me wanted to withdraw so Aaron would know I was choosing her over ambition. Then I heard the flaw in that thought. Erin had never asked me to become smaller. Giving up something I wanted would only turn her into another reason I avoided making honest choices. I deleted the email. 2 days later, I saw Erin across the lobby. She was laughing with someone from the new division, silver ring moving around her thumb as she spoke. She looked up and saw me. The smile faded, but she did not look away. Neither did I. I wanted to cross the lobby. I stayed where I was. Not because I was afraid anymore, but because an apology was not a key I could use whenever I wanted the door reopened. That evening, I went home and made dinner instead of working. The apartment was quiet. For the first time since my divorce, quiet did not feel like evidence that I had failed. I thought about Erin, about Rachel, about the almost kiss, and finally asked myself the question I had been avoiding. I did not ask whether I was allowed to want a woman at 51. I did not ask what 26 years of marriage meant if I could feel this now. I asked something simpler. Did I want Erin in my life? The answer came without panic. Yes. But for the first time, wanting someone did not feel like permission to chase them. It felt like a reason to become honest enough to meet them without armor. 6 weeks after Erin moved upstairs, I asked her to meet me at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. Neutral ground seemed important. No conference table. No campaign dashboard. No promotion waiting between us. She arrived at 6:15 wearing a navy coat, her dark blonde hair damp from the Seattle rain. When she saw me, she hesitated before taking the chair across from mine. "Hi, Brooks," she said. I smiled. I missed that. Her expression softened, but only slightly. "You said you wanted to talk. I owe you an apology that does not ask you to make me feel better afterward." Erin folded her hands around her coffee. I told her I had been wrong. Not because the folder turned out to be harmless, but because I had chosen suspicion before giving her the dignity of an honest question. I told her fear had made me turn competition into betrayal. "You trusted me," I said, "and I punished you for getting close enough to matter." Erin looked down for a moment. "That hurt." "I know. I needed you to know that." "I do." She studied my face. "What changed?" "I stopped trying to answer that question with you." I told her about therapy, the boundaries, the lunches away from my desk, the resignation email I had written and deleted. "I still want the chief marketing officer position," I said. "Good." I blinked. Erin smiled faintly. "I would have been furious if you gave it up because of me." I finally figured that out. She turned her silver ring once. "There is something you should know. I accepted an offer to lead the new customer growth division. It becomes official Monday." "So you are leaving product marketing? Moving sideways and slightly up? That sounds annoyingly like you." She laughed and something inside me loosened. The promotion problem had changed, but it did not magically erase what had happened between us. I did not want circumstance to make my decision for me again. So I asked the question I had rehearsed only once because rehearsing it twice felt like hiding. "If there were no launch, no promotion, and no office between us, would you let me take you to dinner?" Erin became very still. "Are you asking because you miss me?" "Yes. But not only because I miss you." I held her gaze. "I am asking because I want to know you when we are not solving something. And because I am done pretending that what I feel is irritation." Her smile arrived slowly. "Dinner sounds good." Our first date happened the following Saturday at a small Italian restaurant in Ballard. We talked for 3 hours. About her sister. My divorce. Rachel. My fear of starting over. Erin never asked me to define myself before I was ready. When we stepped outside, the rain had stopped. She looked at me beneath the streetlights. "What do you need, Natalie?" Months earlier I had not known. This time I did. "May I kiss you?" Erin smiled. "Yes." The kiss was gentle and brief, and somehow that made it mean more. Nothing in my past disappeared afterward. It did not need to. Months later, Erin was thriving in her new division, and I received the chief marketing officer role. We kept separate teams, separate ambitions, and very clear professional boundaries. I learned that love did not require surrendering the life I had built. It required showing up without using that life as armor. At 51, I had thought rediscovering myself meant finding a completely different woman underneath everything I had been. Instead, I found someone familiar who had finally stopped being afraid of her own unfinished edges. Sometimes the person who unsettles us is not asking us to become someone else. Sometimes she simply makes it impossible to keep looking away from who we already are. Thank you for spending this time with our story. If it stayed with you, please subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who might need a reminder that beginning again does not have an expiration date.